Joining us once again, and we were just discussing that it's been a hot minute since Dr. Kit O'Toole was on this program, is the one and only Dr. Kit O'Toole. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be back. It's been too long. I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah, the last time you were on, we were talking about our favorite overlooked McCartney songs, and the ones that we chose, solo songs, the ones that we chose all tended to be deeply personal McCartney songs, and, you know, a psychiatrist would have a field day with that one. This time, we're keeping in the spirit of your book, Songs We Were Singing, Guided Tours Through the Beatles' Lesser-Known Tracks, and I just realized this is a book that's nearly 10 years old, isn't it?
Yes, hard to believe. I am working on the sequel.
Okay, good.
So there will be one coming.
I was going to say, this is a nostalgia program, so I guess we can celebrate a book approaching its 10th anniversary. So
it's hard to believe.
It's one of those situations where someone just said the other day, boy, do you know it's the 25th anniversary of the Beatles' one CD, and I thought, I can't even handle that.
Well, and it's what, the 30th or so anniversary of Anthology?
Right.
Good Lord.
There are people that were not born, who have been born, have grown up, are married and have kids who were not alive when the Anthology project came
I had somebody say to me recently saying, what was it like? Those of you who were around when Anthology came out, what was it like? And I'm like, it wasn't that long ago. Shut up.
Right. Well, let me take a pinch of Metamucil and I'll tell you about it. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. Let me get my rocking chair and I'll tell you all about it.
So for this conversation, in keeping with the theme of your book, Songs We Were Singing, I thought we would pick individually, we haven't discussed which ones we're picking here, some lesser-known tracks from the Beatles to talk about. You picked 3, I picked 3. I'm going to say up front, well, 2 things. One, I'm sure there's going to be someone listening to this who's going to say, there's no such thing as an overlooked Beatles song. Every song is a hit in someone's universe. And, I'm sure there's validity to that. But how would you define an overlooked Beatles song?
Well, I'm glad you brought this up because, yes, I've heard that more than once. Yes, I understand that the Beatles catalog is one of the most well-known, of any music acts catalog, but the way I chose the songs for my book and for today is basically they're songs that were B-sides, album tracks, some songs that were never performed live, some songs that maybe made the charts, but believe it or not, were not big hits. And you don't hear them quite as often on the radio as you hear the big hits. These are the ones that I, with maybe the exception on, Sirius XM's Beatles channel or something. But like classic rock radio, these are songs you hardly ever hear. Those are my criteria for the lesser-known songs that deserve more attention.
Right, and with the exception of Ken Michaels' Every Little Thing program that airs on this radio station, early Sunday mornings, you will hear some of these unheralded Beatles songs.
Absolutely. He will play those as well, yeah. But other places, traditional radio, these are not heard that much at all.
So I can tell you that the last one I'm going to talk about is a song that I think is probably going to be controversial. So I'm going to save that for the end for my discussion. But, well, it's your book. How about you start? What's your first lesser-known Beatles track?
All right. Well, let me just preface this by saying I decided to go with earlier tracks because I feel like the later stuff from maybe Rubber Soul, but definitely Revolver On, I think a lot of times gets more attention these days. Abbey Road is now considered, via many, polls and all, the best Beatles album and all. So I think sometimes in general the earlier stuff can get overlooked. So that's the time frame that I chose. And so with that in mind, the first one is I'll Get You.
Oh, okay. B-side of She Loves You.
Exactly. And And it was supposed to be the A-side originally. They thought this would be a good follow-up for From Me to You, but it ended up, of course, ultimately it was decided that She Loves You would be the better track. I just think what's great about this is it represents so many of the Beatles songs and their creative process in that they really absorbed all different musical styles. And in this case, you get R&B, and so we'll even more on the blues side with John's harmonica, giving a little bit of a harder edge to an otherwise upbeat, somewhat pop-oriented songs, and then you get those harmonies, which are echo the Everly Brothers, who were huge influence on him and on them rather, and then you add in Paul McCartney said in past interviews that he borrowed a chord from a Joan Baez song, All My Trials. Of course, he recorded a song called All My Trials years later. So now you got folk in there. And so you get all of these influences together, and the lyrics, too, are a little interesting for a traditional pop song. This isn't just a straightforward, I love you, and this is a little more aggressive. With them saying, telling you, my friend, I'll get you in the end, right. And calling her my friend. What? I mean, it's just strange. And then the bridge, you get into more of those Everly Brothers harmonies, then you get this other interesting line where they say that she might as well resign herself to him.
Oh, that is a great lyric.
Yep, exactly. But it's also, resign. That's an interesting choice of words. Just sort of saying, okay, you just have to give it up. And, it's a little bit more on the, I don't know about aggressive, but it's definitely not exactly a typical love song. And you just get some great rock in there. And I will also add the version that appeared on Anthology, the live version.
Yes.
Which I love that version, too. I love the hand claps on it. It's a little, almost like an unplugged kind of feel. So I like that version, too. But I just feel this song is representative of how the Beatles took all these different influences, blended them together, and created this song which, yes, it's accessible, but it's still kind of an unusual song for 1963 pop.
So I've got a lot to say about this one, too. I totally agree with you. I think the oh yeah, the repetition of that, you can tell this was written around the same time as She Loves You with yeah.
Sure.
They're going for something there. And that bridge is just incredible. That where there's gonna be a time, that really lifts that song. And maybe you have to resign yourself to me. There might not be that many people in that town, Maybe right. the pickings are slim. Maybe that's what he's referring to. But you know what? I think for these purposes, maybe I'll play that anthology version, and people can hear that live one.
Absolutely. I think it's just as good. Maybe... You talked about controversial earlier, maybe even controversially a little better than the studio version.
So for you folks out there who weren't born when the anthology came out, here's the live version of I'll Get You.
I'll Get You.
Okay, so moving on, we'll get to my first pick, and I should tell you that 2 of the 3 are actually later period Beatles songs. In fact, both of them are from the same year. And for this one, I'm going with a song that is so good, but it's on an album that a lot of Beatle fans skip. That album is the Yellow Submarine soundtrack, and the song is Hey Bulldog.
Oh, that's a great one. I love that track.
That song, the minute I heard it when I was a kid, and I want to say that it's lesser known also because it's not actually in most prints of the film that people would have seen in the U.S. For years and years, no one really saw that sequence with Hey Bulldog. But it's such a powerful song. It has that killer riff at the beginning that runs throughout the song, which is a hallmark of John's songwriting.
Oh, yeah.
And boy, that guitar solo, that thing slices like a knife right through. It is so heavy and so powerful. You have an incredible John vocal all the way through. I mean, everybody's great on it, but obviously it's a John song, and he's the predominant voice on this. And then at the end, you get a little bit of comedy from John and Paul. So, you know, what's not to love? It's just something that maybe if it had been on the White Album or if it had been somewhere else, it might have gotten more attention.
Yeah, I agree. It is such a great track. It is just a classic rocker, but a lot of fun. I mean, you can tell that John and Paul were having a great time in the studio, you know, yelling back and forth to each other. And I mean, it's just infectious, the spirit of the song. And as you said, that guitar solo, oh my gosh. I mean, it is just, as you said, it's searing. I love it.
Great stuff. All right, your number 2 pick.
Okay, my number 2 is from Hard Day's Night. This has been a favorite of mine for a long time. I'll Be Back.
Oh, love it.
I love it. It's the chord changes in it are so different, you know, for the time. And it actually, as some may know, had its roots in Del Shannon's Runaway. John Lennon said in a later interview that the song was his sort of reworking of those chords. And it was originally conceived, again, going back to Anthology, as a waltz.
Yes.
And we heard that on Anthology. And they quickly abandoned the idea because John was saying the lyrics were too difficult to sing at that tempo. So then they switched to the 4/4 rhythm. Also, that originally, as you'll hear in earlier versions, that was more electric guitars, and then wisely they switched to acoustic for this version, and that's one of the reasons I love the song. I love the acoustic guitar dominated guitar riffs, and I mean it's just a beautiful song. It also demonstrates how, you know, it's just amazing, Ghosty, how quickly their songwriting developed. I mean, so quickly. And this is another example of this. You know, it's their willingness to abandon the traditional pop song formulas. Like, there's really no chorus to this.
Right.
You know, it's 3 bridges. I mean, it's like, what? And the chords, you know, alternate between A major and A minor, so it gives it this really melancholy, you know, kind of tone, and it's a perfect setting for John's incredible vocals, where, you know, he's revealing this inner conflict and despair he's experiencing over this sort of faltering relationship. It's such a compelling song, very introspective, and in some ways the woman has the upper hand in this song, unlike some others, where, you know, when he sings, I want to go, but I hate to leave you.
Right.
I mean, you know, you sense this tension throughout the song, and the song doesn't end on a resolved chord either, so you don't really know what's going to come of this relationship, you know. So it's sophisticated songwriting, gorgeous chord changes, and a stellar vocal from John, and of course, incredible harmonies.
Now, when I think of this song, in my mind, I always associate it with the Beatles 65 LP.
Yes.
And I wonder if maybe Capitol inadvertently did the Beatles a favor by putting it on that record with some of the material from Beatles for Sale that was more acoustic based, like No Reply and I'm a Loser, I'll Follow the Sun, and I'll Be Back kind of fits. Not that Dave Dexter had a master plan, but it kind of fits on that album.
It does, because I remember, I agree with you, you know, that's what I grew up on too, were the American albums. And so when the British albums finally came out, and I thought, really, this was on A Hard Day's Night? Because it doesn't sound like it exactly fits.
Right.
On there in tone and as you said, the acoustic sound. I mean, yeah, Beatles 65 definitely had a more acoustic feel to it, so this fit in very well there.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, you know.
All right, so we're going to get to my second pick, a song that has risen in everyone's esteem over the past few years, and it's long, long, long. And
Interesting.
I say that because, and I know that the Giles Martin remixes of things can be controversial. It seems to be the operative word in this discussion. But
Yes.
I think that prior to that, I think it was 2018 mix of the White Album, Long, Long, Long was always mixed very low, very quietly on the White Album. And when I heard that version of the song, suddenly it felt like it had a little more life to it. I've always liked the song, but I really started to appreciate just how moody that song is and how melancholy. And I think it suffers in a way because While My Guitar Gently Weeps is on that same album, and that's the one that people would go to as here's the George song, for all time. Maybe even Piggy's. But I really enjoy Long, Long, Long.
Let me tell you, I have, you talked earlier about personal story. This is kind of a personal story about the song. So back in 2018, your friend and mine, Ken Womack, had hosted a conference at Monmouth University where he teaches, and it was celebrating the 50th anniversary of the White Album. And just by pure circumstance, it happened at the same time that the box set came out. So somebody had, may have been Ken, I'm not sure, but somebody had an advanced copy. So, because I think the box set was coming out like that weekend of the conference. So they put it on, and the talk of the conference was this remix of Long, Long, Long. So they played it one night when we were having dinner on big speakers. And so for the first time, most of us were hearing this remix, and I just couldn't believe it because it wasn't a big favorite of mine, to be completely honest. But this remix really brought it out. I agree with you that that the mix was kind of low, the vocals were low. And even some of the instrumentation, I mean, this really clarified the song, and I just thought, wow, I mean, that is such a, stunning track that had been kind of lost in past mixes, and this one really made all the difference for me.
It's a wonderful cut, and I'm glad it's sort of been rescued from relative obscurity when you're talking about the Beatles catalog. So what would be your third and final choice?
So my third choice is from an album that's celebrating its 60th anniversary this year, Rubber Soul. And you think, well, sure, that's a landmark album. What could be underappreciated? But I think The Word deserves more acclaim than it does, because to me this was a gigantic leap forward in their songwriting, because this time they're talking about love with a capital L.
Yes.
I mean, this is not romantic love. It's John as sort of a preacher, saying that he's discovered this word that will set us free. I mean, you feel like he's doing that. And yes, I know it was influenced by smoking pot. They both said they were doing that, although Paul later said they never really smoked pot when they were writing. So, don't know if this was happening at the same time. But still, it's a real preview of the Summer of Love, that would happen 2 years later. And it's definitely an indicator of where they were going musically. That they were going to start writing about things other than romantic love, and were making these, bigger statements. Love the piano on this. The harmonies are absolutely stunning. And I keep forgetting to mention, and I'm sorry to mention I haven't, Ringo's drumming, simple but powerful. It's just, I think, a really great track that even now when you listen to it, you think, yeah, they were really moving forward. A bit like, even like George's from the same album, Think for Yourself.
Yes.
It kind of goes along with that. So this is really a preview of what was to come on Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, and so forth. And I don't know why it doesn't get more attention.
I agree with you. It is a precursor to that entire movement, that whole Love Generation scene. It starts here with this song, and that piano is so funky. It's got such a funky rhythm to it.
It does.
It's kind of in the same vein as a Drive My Car, that kind of funk, that odd beat to it. And yeah, and it's only fitting that John would be the guy to kick that whole branch of songwriting off, talking about love in the more abstract sense, the more universal, rather than the romantic. So, yeah, good pick. And, that's a song that at first, when I had Rubber Soul, which would have been the American one, leading with I've Just Seen a Face, that was a song that I skipped initially. I thought, it's a little too weird. I don't know I didn't like her. And now it's, it's one of my favorites from that record. Whatever the iteration, I don't skip anything on Rubber Soul.
Of course. And it's interesting that you said, you found it, when you first heard it, you found it weird. Exactly. That's the point, that they were going, heading in this future direction. And when you hear that song, you just think, wow, they're really progressing here, and, they're giving us a sneak preview of what's to come. It's a departure.
So we're going to get to my final controversial pick.
Ooh, I can't wait for this.
This is going to be controversial when I say that the name of this song is 8 Days a Week.
Okay.
So the reason that I am considering this one of the Beatles' lesser-known songs is because I enjoy watching reactors on YouTube and listening to podcasts that are hosted by new fans, younger fans. Mm-hmm. And these younger fans, we're talking like maybe their 20s, most likely all in their 20s, and the same YouTube reactors, they have been weaned on the British albums, the proper releases, and that includes the singles as well. So even though 8 Days a Week was released in the U.S. as a single, went to number one, in the U.K., 8 Days a Week was just an album track. It was
that's right.
It was not anything that anybody was all that excited about. And even though for years and years, decades, in America, 8 Days a Week seemed like a staple of oldies radio. It was always being played. And, maybe in 2000 when it appeared on the Beatles' One album, that was its last gasp for relevance. But I think over time, as more and more younger fans get into this Beatle fold, they are just experiencing the British albums and the British singles, and also that history of what they were releasing and how they were releasing it. And there isn't as much discussion about 8 Days a Week as there would be about Yesterday or I Want to Hold Your Hand, or because it wasn't a single for the Beatles.
Interesting. I never thought of it that way, but that's true. That's true. And really funny that you picked this one because, and I write about this in my book, this is the song that made me a Beatles fan.
Oh, okay.
So when you said the name, I thought, oh my gosh, I mean, this is like mind reading or something. Because I heard the song. It was 8th grade chorus class, and on Fridays we could bring in albums for the class to listen to. I think the teacher was just trying to kind of take a day off, but that's a whole other thing. And somebody brought in the 20 Greatest Hits album. The pre-one.
Yes.
Yep, and. I wasn't paying much attention at first, and then 8 Days a Week came on. And for some reason, I don't know if it was the rhythm, the catchiness, again, some unusual chord changes, it just grabbed my attention. And I of course knew who the Beatles were at that point and all, but, it was like, oh, that's stuff my parents listened to, and so, but when I heard that, I thought, now this is different. this is really catchy. And that's what hooked me, was that song. Funny you choose that one.
It's fitting we should end on it. It's also odd that you mentioned 8th grade chorus class, because they did the same thing in mine. And on Fridays, we were allowed to bring in records. This must have been something that was going on all over the country. Teachers must have said,
must have been a trend.
hey, on Friday, let the kids bring in records, and we can say, oh, we're encouraging their love of music. And I brought in the single of, it was a Twist and Shout and There's a Place on the Tolly label.
Wow.
And there I was in my 8th grade chorus class, and I'll never forget Suzanne, a young girl in the chorus class, she did the twist. It was pretty remarkable. But, so we had that same experience as well. Kit, this has just been a fun conversation. I'm glad we reconvened for a part 2. And if anyone wants to get your book, Songs We Were Singing, Guided Tours Through the Beatles' Lesser-Known Tracks, or Michael Jackson FAQ, All That's Left to Know About the King of Pop, where would they go?
Well, first of all, Ghosty, it's been a pleasure being back here. I mean, this was so much fun. Always enjoy talking with you, and talking Beatles even better. So you can find out about me at kiddotool.com. If you want to purchase any of those books, you can get them right on Amazon. That's probably the easiest way to do it. You can also follow me on Facebook. I'm under Kiddo Tools Keynotes. You can keep up with what I'm doing there. And, of course, you can follow my 2 podcasts that I host, co-host. There are pages for those as well. Toppermost of the Poppermost.net and TalkMoreTalk.com.